After generations of slavery in Egypt, the Israelites were finally free. Through mighty signs and devastating plagues, God had broken Pharaoh's stubborn resistance, and the people of Israel marched out of Egypt with hope burning in their hearts. But their freedom was tested almost immediately. As they journeyed through the wilderness, they suddenly found themselves trapped. In front of them stretched the vast Red Sea, dark, deep, and impossible to cross. Behind them, a cloud of dust rose into the sky. The ground began to tremble beneath their feet. The terrifying sound grew louder and clearer, the thunder of 600 Egyptian chariots racing toward them. Pharaoh had changed his mind. He would not let his slaves go. Panic exploded throughout the camp. Men shouted in fear. Women clutched their children. Some cried out in anger against Moses, saying it would have been better to remain slaves than to die in the wilderness. The sea blocked their escape. The most powerful army in the world was closing in fast. There was nowhere to run. But Moses stood firm. He told the people not to be afraid, that they would see the deliverance of the Lord. Then he lifted his staff over the sea. Suddenly, a fierce east wind began to blow. It was not an ordinary wind. It roared through the night with relentless force. Sand stung their faces. Tents shook. Cloaks snapped violently in the air. The wind did not stop for a moment. It blew all night long. As it blew, something impossible began to happen. The waters of the Red Sea started to move. Slowly at first, then with increasing power, the sea began to pull back. The shoreline retreated. Waves rolled backward. The seabed was exposed. Mud and wet sand glistened under flashes of lightning. Fish flopped helplessly where water once covered them. Then the sea did something no one had ever seen before. It divided. Two massive walls of water rose upward on each side, towering like liquid mountains. The wind held them in place, swirling and twisting, yet restrained by an unseen power. Between those walls, a path stretched across the sea, muddy, unstable, but open. The impossible had become reality. Moses told the people to move. The Israelites stepped into the divided sea. Families hurried forward. Fathers carried children. Mothers pulled carts. The elderly were supported by the strong. Above them, the walls of water churned and groaned. The wind pushed them forward as if urging them on. Every step was an act of faith. Every glance upward reminded them of the overwhelming power holding those waters back. Behind them, Pharaoh's army arrived at the shore. Seeing the path through the sea, the Egyptians did not hesitate. Confident in their strength, they charged in after the fleeing Israelites. Horses galloped, wheels spun, soldiers shouted in pursuit. But the ground beneath them began to change. The firm path became thick mud. Wheels sank deep into the seabed. Chariots slowed. Horses struggled to keep their footing. Axles cracked. Panic spread among the soldiers as they realized something was terribly wrong. The very path that had opened to save Israel was turning against them. By the time the Israelites reached the opposite shore, the Egyptian army was trapped in the middle of the sea. Then the wind stopped. A deep rumble echoed between the walls of water. The towering waves began to collapse inward. In one overwhelming, unstoppable surge, the waters crashed down upon the Egyptians. Chariots were swallowed. Horses disappeared. Soldiers were overtaken by the roaring sea. Within moments, the army that once terrified nations was gone.
When the sun rose, the Red Sea was calm again. The same waters that had divided now covered everything. The Israelites stood safely on the far shore, watching the sea return to stillness. The army that chased them would never threaten them again. Fear turned into awe. Panic turned into worship. The people understood that their freedom was not the result of their strength, but the power of God directing nature itself. The Red Sea crossing became more than an escape. It became a defining moment, proof that no obstacle is too great, no enemy too powerful, and no situation too impossible when divine power intervenes. The sea that seemed like a barrier became a pathway, and the army that seemed unstoppable was silenced forever.